Yes, good morning, children. And today we're going to do the chapter starting point of English literature. Okay, I've already sent you two videos on mask, part 1 and part 2. I think you must have seen them. Now, this I'm doing, though I have explained it in the class, but I'm doing it again for the boys who were not there in the class and they missed it. Okay, so please, you can go through the videos and then you will understand the chapter. I will explain it paragraph wise. Now, this chapter starting point is about Milkha Singh. Milkha Singh, he was known as the Flying Sikh. Why Flying Sikh? Because he used to run very fast. And the record he made in the Olympics, no one could break it for another 40 years. Milkha Singh, also known as the Flying Sikh, is a former Indian track and field sprinter. Former means previous. Former means previous. In the past, he was a former Indian track. Track is the course or path for running. Track is the course or path for running. And field sprinter. What does sprinter mean? Sprinter. Sprinter is run at full speed over a short distance. Okay, I'll repeat it once more. Now, this chapter's starting point is about Milkha Singh. He was known as the Flying Sikh. He is a former Indian track. Former means in the past. Track is the path for running, and field sprinter. He covered a very long distance at full speed. He covered a short distance and he ran at full speed. Okay. Sprinter means to run at full speed over a short distance. He represented India in the Commonwealth Games in 1958 and the Summer Olympic Games of 1956. 1960 and 64, Milkha Singh is best remembered for his fourth place finish in the 400 meters final at the 1960 Olympic Games. And the record he made, the national record, which was made by Milkha Singh at that time, it was held for almost 40 years. What does that mean? It was held for 40 years means that no one could run as fast as he could run, and no one could break that record for another 40 years. Okay, so this was the introduction to the chapter Milkha Singh, the starting point, and we are going to read about Milkha Singh, how he learned all this and how he became so popular, and you're reading about him till date. Now, three fortunate incidents that occurred in January 1953 when I was a new recruit in the army changed the course of my life. Milkha Singh is narrating this incident, okay? And this is an extract from his book, The Race of My Life, okay? Milkha Singh has written in The Race of My Life. He has narrated his incidents. So he's saying three fortunate. Fortunate means lucky incidents happened in January 1953 when I was a new recruit in the army, and it changed the course of my life. New recruit means recruit is a person who has recently joined the armed forces. Recruit is a person who has recently joined the armed forces. After the morning roll call, one Saturday, morning roll call, because in the army also, like, you have the attendance in the school. When you come for the class, you have the attendance. In the same way, these people in the army also, they have the roll call in the morning. So after the morning roll call one Saturday, there was an announcement that a 6-mile race was to be held the next day. So after the roll call, he said there was an announcement that a 6-mile race was to be held the next day. All 500 recruits, there were about 500 recruits, okay, who had joined at that time. All 500 recruits would participate in this event. The top 10 would be exempted from fatigue duty and be given a glass of milk every day during the training period. Now, it was said that all the 500 recruits, all the people who had joined the army at that time, the 500 trainees, they would participate in this race, and the people who will hold the first 10 positions, okay, the people who will come in the first 10, they will be exempted from fatigue duty. In the army, what happens, children, these young boys, they are trained in this way, they get fatigue duties, okay. If they have to run around, they have to be very hard, they have to really become strong men, so they are given fatigue duty. So he said that they would be exempted from the fatigue duty, and after that they would also be given a glass of milk every day. Now you must be finding it very funny that what a glass of milk, because as it is, children, you don't like milk. Now we are very lucky, we belong to good families, our parents are running after us, eat this, eat that, and you just say this is not good, isn't it? But there are people who are not getting it. So Milkha Singh, he belonged to background where he was not given everything. Only food was bare. Food also used to have only rotis. Milk was a very big thing from him, for him. Okay. At times in the villages, there are people who have black tea. They don't have milk at all. So for us, it's quite surprising. We don't count our blessings, but it is like that. So that is why they have really put this thing that everyone would be given a glass of milk. All these recruits who had joined the army, it's not that they belong to good families, all of them. They came from very poor backgrounds. Now, fatigue duty it is. Duties such as cleaning and cooking carried out in fatigue, that is loose clothes instead of uniforms. Okay, instead of uniform, you wear loose clothes and then you carry out these fatigue duties. Of course, you are being trained for the army, but at the same time, you're doing these duties like cleaning utensils, cooking, and doing everything, but you're not in your uniform. And you would be exempted means you would be warded off, you would be away from it, exempted. If Milkha Singh exempted from some duty, it means that he doesn't have to do it. Okay, you don't have to do it and you are exempted from it. So he was very happy that let's see if someone comes in the first, and he's just thinking, it's not that he's come, but then this was the prize they would get. The next morning, we reported at the starting line where they had to run. Okay. The next morning, we reported at the starting line wearing canvas shoes. So he says we reported at the starting line where we had to run and we all were wearing canvas shoes. Canvas is a strong, coarse cloth. Coarse means rough. What does coarse mean? Rough. So all of them, all these people, they were wearing canvas shoes, and these are made out of a strong coarse cloth. Coarse means rough cloth. And they all were wearing vests and khaki shorts. The whistle blew and we set off. Filled with a sense of mission, I ran as fast as I could. The reward of getting a glass of milk was a big treat for me. As I had suffered great want and deprivation in my childhood, I took the lead in the first 2 or 3 miles. I would rest a while. I felt tired and then run again. When I saw others catching up, luck was with me that day and I finished sixth in the race. So he says that we all ran, the whistle blew, we all ran. And the mission was that, of course, if they would come first, they would be exempted from the fatigue duties in the first 10 and they would be given a glass of milk. So this was a very big prize for Milkha Singh, like he's mentioning it, because he's saying that in my childhood, I had suffered great I was deprived, I had suffered great loss, and I was deprived of all these things. That means he belonged to a poor background, and milk was a very big thing for him. Okay, so he says, I ran with all my strength, and what happened? He came sixth in the race. The names of the 10 recruits who qualified were announced before a large gathering of almost 300 people. Friends, even strangers, widely applauded and thumped me on my back. So he's saying in front of 300 people, we were we were greeted and we all applauded to us and I was thumped on my back. What does applauded means? It shows that you show approval to someone, you praise someone by clapping. Applauded means you clap your hands and you show approval and praise for a person. So he says we all were widely applauded, the 10 of us, and it was in front of 300 people, and people were thumping on my back and they were saying shabash. I was overwhelmed. So he says I was overwhelmed with this by the attention and appreciation I received that night. And at this incident became the starting point of my career as an athlete. So he says, I was really, really overwhelmed that people were applauding and they were saying shabash to him. They were thumping him on the back. And he says, I was very overwhelmed, means he became very emotional. I was overwhelmed with this and he was very happy with this. And by the attention and the appreciation he got from the people. The appreciation he got, appreciation is to recognize the value of something. To recognize the value of something. Yes, you can write down the meanings. Appreciation is to recognize the value of something. So he says, and this was the beginning, this incident, it was the starting point of my career as an athlete. And I told you the meaning of overwhelmed. Overwhelmed means that you get very emotional. He got very, very emotional. Write down the meaning of career. Career. Career means an occupation which is undertaken. An occupation. Career means an occupation which is undertaken for a long period of a person's life. An occupation. Career means an occupation which is undertaken for a long period of a person's life. Of a person's life. Yes. So I hope you understood till here. Then he says, as part of our training, we had to run 6 miles every day. Now, of course, these 10 recruits, they had come in, they had won the race. They were the first 10 amongst the 500 people. So he says, as part of our training, we had to run 6 miles every day. They were being trained to run for another race. Our instructor was Havaldar Gurudev Singh, who had been with the army for about 15 years. So he says our instructor was Havaldar Gurudev Singh, and he had been, instructor means the person who was guiding them, the instructor, and he had been in the army for about 15 years. Like for your sports instructors, whom do you have in the school? Mr. Dhela, Mr. Knight, and then Mr. Dogra, isn't it? The instructors who instruct you and who teach you how to play games. So his instructor was Gurudev Havaldar, Havaldar Gurudev Singh, who had been with the army for about 15 years. Although his task was to train new recruits, he was a good runner himself and he continued to participate in races. He was a very good runner himself and his job was to recruit, his job was to train the new recruits. I eagerly looked forward to the end of the practice sessions when we would get the promised glass of milk. Now look at this poor Milkha, he's only dreaming about the milk. So he's saying, always I used to look forward that we would get the glass of milk after the end of the session. After they stopped running, they would get the glass of milk. So he says, I was always looking forward for the glass of milk after the end of the session. Okay. Gurudev was a taciturn. Gurudev was a taciturn means he was a straight person. He did not take any nonsense. He was a reserved person. He doesn't speak too much and he doesn't like any sort of nonsense. Okay. And write down the meaning of session also. It's not in the book. Session, Session. Session means a period devoted to a particular activity. Session is a period devoted to a particular activity. A period devoted to a particular activity. That is the meaning of session. So he says, at the end of the session, I was always looking for the promised glass of milk. He was really waiting for it. So Gurudev, he was a no-nonsense kind of man, very reserved. His tough exterior means his physical appearance from outside, hid his softer, gentler side. That means he looked very tough from outside. He looked very strict from outside. Okay, his physical appearance was like that, but he was very gentle. He was very soft from inside. He was a very kind-hearted person. He would run with us during training sessions, prodding us with a danda stick, shouting, "Run, boys, run! Run for our regiment." Prodding means gently pushing with a stick to urge them to run, to follow, just holding the stick, just making them a bit scared, of course not hitting them. And he would really encourage them also. Prodding means to encourage and to show the stick and tell them to run fast. I strongly believe that he was instrumental in motivating me to strive to become a world-class athlete. So he says he was instrumental. Instrumental means that he played the most important role in making Milkha Singh what he is. Okay, and he became world-class athlete. So he says he was instrumental in motivating me, in encouraging me, and making me what I am. I strongly believe that he was instrumental in motivating me to strive to become a world-class athlete. Even today, when I think of his danda, I bow my head in respect, because it was because of that danda they ran very fast. Of course, they were young boys. They were scared that they would get it on their backs. And because of that, they ran fast. They were trained very well. So he says, still I remember the danda. I bow my head in respect. 6 weeks into our training, the center held a cross-country race. So he says after 6 weeks when they were trained and they ran very fast, then there was a cross-country race. I became the cynosure of all eyes. Cynosure means a person who is the focus of everyone's attention. who is the focus of everyone's attention. Okay, he's everyone looks at him. So he says, in this event, Gurudev came first. Okay, I'll just repeat it. Sorry, I just missed a line, children. Even today, when I think of his danda, I bow my head in respect. 6 weeks into our training, the center held a cross country race. In this event, Gurudev came first and I came second. So, okay, in this race also, Gurudev, the instructor, he came first and Milkha Singh came second. Again, I became the cynosure of all eyes, focus of everyone's attention. I was 20 or 21 at that time, but looked much younger. Why? Because he was quite weak. Okay. And that time he was just into the training thing. He had not made his body. So he says, I looked very young, though I was 20, 21. I was asked to take part in the Brigade meet in Hyderabad, where I was asked to run in the 400-meter event. After that, he was told to run for the Brigade event, which was being held in Hyderabad in the 400-meter event. I was greatly surprised because I did not even know what 400 meters meant. I had always run 6 miles, but it was during the brigade meet that the second incident occurred, which made me even more determined to become a good athlete. So, see, so many things happened. First, he ran. He amongst the 500 people, when 500 recruits ran, he came sixth in the race, and then again he ran this cross country race, and he came second. And then he was told to run for the brigade meet, which was held in Hyderabad in the 400-meter event. So he says, I don't even know what is 400-meter event, but he had become very determined because 2 times he had got appreciation from the people, and he had really done well. What is the meaning of brigade? Brigade means a large army unit. Brigade means a large army unit forming part of a division. Brigade is a large army unit forming part of a division. So he says, but it was during the brigade meet that the second incident occurred, which made me even more determined to become a good athlete. In the first practice run in Hyderabad, I took off my canvas shoes and ran barefoot. So he took off his canvas shoes, and without shoes he ran barefoot. Gurudev clapped his hands for me to start. I did, and clocked 63 seconds. Clocked 63 seconds means according to the clock he ran 63 seconds. I was eager to run 4 more rounds. After all, that was what I was used to, running 6 miles every day. So running a quarter mile seemed far too easy. I continued to practice for many days to improve my time, and soon I was running 400 meters in less than a minute. So in less than a minute, he was running 400 meters. He was going and practicing, and he had really become very good in that. The day of the meet dawned bright and clear. Dawned bright and clear means the day of the meet came. Finally, that day came when he had to run for this brigade meet. As I made my way to the stadium, I noticed some men who were surrounded by senior officers and their families. So he says, as I was going towards the stadium, what did he see? That there were many officers, there were many people there were many men standing over there. They were surrounded by senior officers and their families. The men who were standing over there, they wore vests with India written on them in bold letters. In their vests, what was written on their vests? India. They seemed to have an air of power and prestige about them. So that means that they were really looking they had an air of power and prestige, means that they were quite proud of themselves. Okay, they were very proud. And why? India was written on their vest because they were representing the country. I was very curious to know who they were. I was told later that they were athletes who had represented India in international sporting events. In other international sporting events worldwide, they had represented our country, India. So he wanted to know who they were. That was my eureka moment. So he says that was my eureka moment. Eureka moment is the time when he realized that he wanted to become in his life. What you want to become, suddenly you realize in your life there can be any moment, and you're very determined about it, and you want to achieve it. So he says that was my eureka moment. I made a solemn promise to myself that I would not rest until I earned a place in that special world too. So he says, I made a solemn promise to myself. Solemn means formal and dignified. Solemn means formal, formal and dignified, or deeply sincere. Or deeply sincere. So he made a sincere promise to himself that he is going to make himself known in this world, which was the world where these men were standing. He wanted to be like them. That was my eureka moment, and I made a Solomon, that means a sincere promise to myself, that I would not rest until I earned a place in that special world too, which was the special world where those people were standing. The world of Indian athletes who had the privilege of representing their country. He said, I wanted to be like them, and I also wanted to represent my country. I wanted to be one amongst them. Privilege is an opportunity that you are very proud about, an opportunity you get and you're very proud about. I wanted to wear blazers and vests with my country's name written on them. I resolved that I would make my country proud of me. So he says, I resolved that I would make my country proud of me. Resolve means to find a solution to something. To find a solution to something. So he was really, really impressed with this, and he made a promise to himself that he's going to make himself very special. He's going to earn a name for his country, and he also would be amongst these people, and he would feel an air of power and prestige for himself. Okay, children? So I hope you've understood till here, and the second part of the chapter I will be sending tomorrow. Okay, please go through the video. You will understand the chapter nicely. Thank you, children.